So Tesla is solidly up this morning, and as Sawyer Merritt put it, this could be, or looks like to him, this could be the FSD moment that we've been waiting for, the kind of chat GPT moment for Tesla. I don't think so, but it doesn't mean that we're not getting a nice bump from all the FSD news of yesterday, which I'll be reporting on, and overnight, of course, more news overnight. So, but yeah, we could be on the verge of the Tesla Chat GP moment, if you wish. The market is marginally up this morning, and Tesla is up like 7 points, so that's a pretty good start for the day. We'll talk about that. We'll get the up-to-date information in just a bit. We, of course, are going to have Q1 unit sales announced next Tuesday, a week from today, and those are not going to be good. And I wouldn't be shocked to see that maybe the stock will still take a hit from those numbers being worse than the folks that are not paying close attention. Those folks are going to be a little shocked. And so we could have a run up all this week and then have a pretty bad day on Tuesday next week. Anyway, Elon Musk had said last May that when FSD was safe enough, Tesla would offer a 1-month free trial to every owner who had a car equipped to turn on FSD. That offer was made yesterday. If you didn't already hear that, that offer is now out there. So if you own a car that is equipped to take FSD, but you've never turned it on, you've never done the $200 subscription or paid the full price for FSD, you now have the opportunity to go turn it on for free for a month. But Musk went further. He went further. This is the promotionally minded Musk. He says he told every customer service employee and every employee at a delivery location or at the service centers that when they have a contact with a car owner, that would include owners that are picking up their brand new car or picking up their car after service. They are to activate the FSD. They are to load it, whatever they have to do, turn it on, and then give that car owner a test drive with FSD working. At the end of the test drive, then say, would you like us to turn it off or would you like to continue with your trial? Sounds like a good deal to me. As somebody pointed out, yes, might have been Brian. I'm not sure. One of the two Brians, I think it was yesterday, said to me, if this increases the take rate by even double what it is now, people think that the take rate in the United States is around 10 or so percent. If it doubles it to 20%, that would be a huge, huge number. And of course, that would be increasing the take rate among those who are purchasing it now. But that doesn't count the 1.6 million cars, I think, in the United States. May not have, this number may be wrong, but it might be in the ballpark. 1.6 million cars in the United States that don't have it as of this moment. Many of those could also take the 1 month and then keep it going at $200 a month or pay the full price. Anyway, in addition to this, as I noted yesterday morning, Instagram has been added as well, not just Facebook. Because they are basically in the same, I do this for a living, right? So if you set up to put ads on Facebook, it's kind of like almost automatic to also do them on Instagram. You almost have to say no. So as of now, we have Tesla advertising on Google search. That's where they kind of started their social media effort. YouTube, X, of course, Instagram, Facebook, and now they've been for about a year, I guess, they've been offering some ads at select airports when you walk through on your way to your plane, some of these big ads on the side of the walls. Okay, now let's talk about the stock in general a little bit. Tesla seems to have a solid floor around $170. Now, why is it a solid floor at 170 instead of 107? Some will try to put that 107 that we hit a year ago. Some will say, well, that was because of Elon Musk's tweets or because he sold some stock or maybe it was, okay, the real reason why it was able to go as low as 107 is because there was a risk-off environment in the stock market because the stock market was at a very big low. And in particular, the stocks that were being slammed were stocks that were being affected by the fast increase in the Fed's interest rates and the worry that they were going to go higher. Some people were thinking they could go much higher than the 5.25, 5.5 range that they ended up stuck as a top. As I said at the time, that particular 5%, that's not really that high. Now, if it had gone to 6 or 7, that would have been high. And a lot of people were worried about that. And that interest rate stocks were slammed. Some of Cathie Wood's stocks were slammed much worse than Tesla. So anyway, there was a fear of recession. There was a fear of inflation. There was a fear of interest rates. All those things were impacting Tesla also. And so it was a risk-off environment. The stock went really low. Now, did Elon's tweeting or Elon selling the stock have anything to do with it? Sure, that's a sentiment thing that could have impacted it a little bit. But no, most of it was all of those other things. Now, similarly, when Tesla was at 410, about 100 points of that was market exuberance. And maybe 50 points of that was robotaxi. Okay. I don't know. Maybe those numbers are way off. Maybe it's 50 points of exuberance, 50 points of robotaxi, and 50 points of something else. But there was a lot of FOMO, and the market was filled with risk-on attitudes. The sentiment was buy, 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 take advantage of all these opportunities out there. All right. Right now, the sentiment on the stock market is in the neutral range. So the economy seems okay. Earnings are okay. Excitement about AI is there, but there's continued concern about wars, interest rates, inflation. And some people are even talking about now that the Fed might not lower rates at all, especially we'll talk about oil in a minute. If the sentiment shifts back to fear and risk off, Tesla could test 107. Maybe not after this FSD news, but as I was writing this yesterday afternoon, even with the FSD, it could still test 107 if the sentiment goes the other way. If the Fed decides not to lower rates, maybe if the Fed decides they have to raise rates, again, we'll talk about oil. If the sentiment gets positive, the stock could easily go much higher. Maybe oil caps off. Maybe we start to see some downward pressure on inflation again. Maybe the Fed actually cuts an interest rate. Then you can see Tesla going up quite strongly. And of course, if the FSD thing turns out to be something that has legs and FSD just keeps getting better and better and better, it looks like robotaxi is going to happen. That would mean, of course, that the robots, the Optimus robots, have a much better chance of happening. Then you can see stock prices way above 410. Additionally, Cathie Wood and some other whales have been publicly noting their big moves on the stock. On the other hand, the produced and shipped numbers due Tuesday, as I mentioned, still could impact it lower. Here's what AJ says this morning about China. Tesla's China insurance registrations came in at 30,000. It's about 1,000 above his number, not my number, not anybody else's number, about his number. And therefore, he calls it a good number, although it may look low compared to last year when Tesla delivered 16,000 in the same week of March. Given what's going on in the Chinese auto market right now, with Chinese automakers cutting 2024 guidance left and right, I think this is a quite respectable number. He says, compared to last year at this point, Q1 2024 is roughly 7,000 units behind last year's same quarter in China. His forecast took into account all of that already. Since today's numbers are above his expectation, he's revising his Q1 2024 delivery estimates upward, but not that much, just a bit. None of the above is investment advice. But in further understanding, I'm wondering if Elon has decided to focus on building up demand through education. I call it advertising. We are seeing a lot of news in that area with Facebook, the auto shows, traveling Cybertrucks all over the world now. In Mexico this week, major stars getting Cybertrucks, which is making a big impact. And now new approaches to new car and service handoffs, mandating them with FSD rides. Let me know in the comments if you think that this is partially due that Elon has shifted focus. He does this focus thing. That doesn't mean he's not got his fingers in lots of pies every day, but when you're doing that, you're not focusing, you're just responding either proactively or reactively, but you're just responding for 5 minutes, famously 5 minutes at a time in Elon's case. But then there's another situation where he focuses. So maybe he's spending an hour or 2 hours a day on something and 5 minutes on everything else. I think he's focusing right now on the demand issue. What happens when Elon focuses? That is not investment advice. So let me know in the comments. Do you think that maybe he's focusing? Well, then there's this. Bloomberg, Tesla price target cut to 120 from 150 by Bernstein analyst Tony Sacconaghi. He is, of course, a famous bear, saying that the company has experienced soft China-Europe demand and constrained U.S. Model 3 production so far this quarter. He lowers his estimate to 426,000 units from 490 for the first quarter, and 2024 estimates down to 1.98 million from 2.12 million. He also cuts his 2024 GAAP EPS estimate to $2.06 from $2.31. And that's what Tony has to say this morning. But the stock, last time I checked, was still up $7+. Bottom line on all of this information about Tesla and the stock this morning, my heart is telling me that investors are going to start looking at the AI play in Tesla, and the stock is going to start moving up steadily again. My gut tells me that I've seen this story before, and it might take months and way more evidence to get the stock moving, not investment advice. This is Randy Kirk. If you haven't done it already, please hit the like button. Has any of that been inspiring or uninspiring or caused you to think or caused you to, anyway, if it's valuable in any way, shape, or form, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And my subscription numbers are not as good as usual. Now, if you're new or if you've never hit the subscribe button and you're watching pretty much every day or watching a few times a week, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps my channel. It just helps so much. So, and then of course, notify, because you've got Brian White coming up later today. We are going to have a potpourri thing where we're going to just go all around and look at all kinds of stuff that's happening with Tesla right now, which I think you're really going to like. We enjoyed it a lot. Hopefully you do too. And then, of course, Nicholas Gibbs will be with me to co-host the Good News Tuesday, which, based on where things are today, we will have a lot to celebrate. Nicholas looks young. Maybe you think that Nicholas is like, we're all old fogies and he looks like a young kid, but he has 15+ years of trading experience and a very high-level tech job. And I learn from him every single week. I surely think that his numbers, I know his numbers, each week, his numbers are not nearly as good as Larry Goldberg's. I think his numbers should be up there. It's time to start really listening to what Nicholas Gibbs, this young puppy, has to say. Brad, oh, by the way, hit Patreon also. Could use a few more Patreon folks to help produce the channel. Thank you so much for those who have recently joined Patreon. Brad Ferguson says, for dirty Tesla FSD 12.3.1 fixes both lane drift and car going too slow. Those were the two big complaints over the last few days on 12.3. So the 12.3.1 fixes both of those. He says those two frustrations are gone. This is now on the general economy. Reuters says orders, this is durable goods, orders for long-lasting U.S. manufactured goods increased more than expected in February, while business investment on equipment appeared to improve in the first quarter. I just said this yesterday. I just said that. Anyway, orders for durable goods, items ranging from toasters to aircraft, mean that it meant to last, items meant to that will last 3 years or longer rose 1.4% last month amid increases in transportation equipment and machinery orders, the Commerce Department Census Bureau said on Tuesday. I didn't go into the details on this, but you may remember that Boeing's numbers were horrible in January, so it might be that these numbers reflect a kind of a bounce back on Boeing. Data for January was revised lower to show orders plummeting 6.9% instead of 6.2%, as previously reported. Economists pulled by Reuters had forecast durable goods orders would rise 1.1%, so did better than expected. Manufacturing remains constrained by higher interest rates, which have curbed demand for goods, but the outlook for the sector, which accounts for 10% of the economy. Now, this is automobiles and trains and planes and toasters. Is the sentiment is improving amid expectations that the Federal Reserve will cut later, but of course they might not. A survey for the Institute of Supply Management this month showed manufacturers fairly upbeat in March about sales and business conditions. Factory output rebounded in February, which reminds me it's about time to look at the amount of freight being moved around the country. Later this week, we should get that number. The U.S. Central Bank has hiked its policy rate by 525 basis points to the current 5.25 to 5.5 since March of 2022. Non-defense capital goods orders excluding aircraft, a closely watched proxy for business spending plans, rose 0.7% in February after falling 0.4% in the prior month. Again, this is that productivity move. This is what we would expect. And this, if the economy is going to continue to move upward, we need companies to start buying capital equipment. These so-called core capital goods orders were previously reported to have been unchanged in January. Core capital goods shipments fell 0.4% after rising 0.8% in January. Non-defense capital goods orders advanced 4.4%, while shipments rose 2.7% after declining 3.0% in January. Okay. So from Barron's, this is on home pricing. What would you think? What do you think happened to home prices in February? Home prices increased at the fastest clip since 2022 at the start of the year, according to one closely watched home price gauge published Tuesday, at the fastest rate since 2022. In February, we're not even in season yet. Well, we are in season now, but we're reporting. Home prices nationally in January were 6% higher than the same month in 2023, according to CoreLogic's Case-Shiller data. Okay. Both indexes, all the indexes are increasing at the quickest rate since 2022. Seasonally adjusted prices also gained, with the 20-city index rising 0.14 from December and the national index gaining 0.36. From the Kobesi letter, this is that oil story I told you that we were going to do. Oil prices are now up 17% this year. 17% this year, and well above $80 a barrel again. OPEC remains committed to production cuts. Geopolitical tensions have threatened supply. Meanwhile, global demand forecasts are being raised because, of course, stimulus in China, plus the U.S. economy is doing better than expected, and inflation is rebounding. Oil is the inflation. It is the canary, okay? If oil goes up, everything goes up. Everything's affected by oil. Even services are affected by oil. Even as non-OPEC production is at record highs, oil prices continue to skyrocket. It seems like high oil prices are just the new normal for consumers. This is yet another setback in the Fed's fight against inflation. Where are stocks right now? Let's take a look at how Tesla is doing. Okay, Tesla is now up $9.38, up $9.33. Anyway, Dow Jones is up $9.48. NASDAQ is up 83. S&P is up 14. So Tesla is doing pretty well. It is topping off a little bit. It looks like it might have been even over $10 at one point. Sounds like the old days. I like the old days. Apple is down a tad. The overall Magnificent Seven are mixed, but the ones that are down a teeny tiny bit. NVIDIA up 6, just in case some of you want to know that. We have got the Cathie Woods also mostly higher, but the ones that are higher, everything on the Cathie Wood list is marginal. There's not big moves on those Cathie Wood stocks. By the way, there's about 8 of them here, just in case you wanted to know that. Okay, let's now go and I'm sorry, I forgot to give you guys the percentages, because there are some of you who like those. So the Dow Jones is up 0.02%, NASDAQ up 0.52%, S&P up 0.29%, and Tesla's up 5.23%. $9.05. Okay, now we'll go take a look at those bonds. The bonds now at this point, they had been up almost over a basis point, now up only 0.2% of a basis point, sitting right on 2.55. That 2.5 number is where it all shakes out. The 2-year is up more at 2.3 basis points. The 2-month is only up 0.6 basis points. So everything up, all the bonds are up in terms of yields, meaning the bonds themselves are down. Okay, we've got oil up this morning. Last time I checked, no, now it's down 6 cents, but still it's at 81.90 on Texas Intermediate, 86.53 on Brent. That's still about a $4.60 spread, which usually indicates that people are concerned about what's happening in, at this point, Russia, Red Sea, Israel. Natural gas up a little bit this morning, but still sitting at $1.63, which is pretty depressed. And so natural gas is not as big a deal as oil for the overall inflation picture, but it is important. It is seriously important. More important in the winter than in the summer when natural gas is not being affected by those that increased driving like oil is. Okay, let's see. I just messed up everything here. Let's go on now to the dollar. The dollar easing a bit this morning. Gold firming a bit this morning as the dollar weakens. That's supposed to happen to oil too. So oil being up and the dollar being up at the same time. The dollar's at very high levels and now oil's at high levels. Imagine what happens if the dollar starts to drop, then oil would go up comparatively. We got gold at $2,206, getting very close to all-time highs again. We have got copper down this morning, but just barely, still sitting at about a $4.01, having a hard time breaking under that $4. And then you have got Bitcoin down 600 this morning at 70,219, and that covers all of the stocks. Go back real quick and see if Tesla's still sitting at $9.07 up this morning. All right, so remember now, these are the things you want to think about. You want to think about Brian White being on later today with a potpourri, where we go round and round. We take a look at lots of different Tesla pieces of the news, but also bigger issues, longer-term issues. Yesterday, we took a tour of the factories with Brian, and that card, that's a very, when he does the tour, do you like that? I really like when we do the tour of the factories. Anyway, I'll put a card up for that one from yesterday. And then we got Nicholas Gibbs on tonight. Check him out. If you haven't checked out Nicholas Gibbs, you gotta not think about that young looking face. He's a wise old guy. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Looking forward to speaking to you a couple more times as we progress through this positive, super good day for Tesla. It's been great talking to you.